Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're zooming out to look at a world that is currently caught right in the middle of two massive, simultaneous shifts. On one hand, we've got the heavy, physical reality of global geopolitical conflict, and, on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, an invisible but equally fierce digital AI arms race. Now, at first glance, these might seem like completely separate worlds, but as we're going to see today, they're actually deeply, permanently intertwined. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for tracking this domino effect. We'll start with conflict and global security, move into oil supply and economic ripples, check in on the global AI arms race, explore commoditizing the tech boom, and finally, look at the impacts on health and society. Starting off with Section 1, Conflict and Global Security, and the very real human cost of geopolitics. 750. That is just a staggering number to wrap your head around. According to the Pentagon, more than 750 American troops have been wounded since the Iran war began in February. It's so easy for us to get completely lost in macro-level strategies and geopolitical chessboard moves, but a number like this really reminds us of the immediate physical human cost that anchors these global events. And look, this US-Iran conflict absolutely does not exist in a vacuum. It sits within a much wider, frankly chaotic landscape of global security breakdowns that we're seeing reported right now. Just look at the headlines today. You've got North Korea launching 10 missiles after totally rejecting diplomatic overtures. A Russian strike in Kyiv leaving 14 people dead. Pirates literally hijacking a Turkish weapons ship off the coast of Somalia. We are looking at an environment where global instability is multiplying incredibly fast, and that is putting immense pressure on international supply chains and our security alliances. Which brings us directly to Section 2, Oil Supply and Economic Ripples, or the squeeze on resources. And this brilliantly illustrates how the physical battlefield directly restricts the flow of essential global resources. Because of the intense American blockade, shipping has been restricted to the point where the market has violently flipped. Previously, Iranian oil was offered to Chinese buyers at a steep discount. Right now, because of the sheer scarcity caused by this conflict, that exact same oil is selling at a premium. It's forcing independent Chinese refiners to frantically scramble for alternative supplies from places like Brazil and Iraq. To put that physical squeeze into perspective, you can see a steep decline right here. Floating Iranian oil storage has plummeted from 105 million barrels down to just 80 million. And when you combine that with a massive drop in commercial traffic moving through the Strait of Hormuz, we're seeing Brent crude pushing near $93.61 a barrel. So the physical battlefield is quite literally driving up the cost of global energy for all of us. Now, let's pivot to Section 3, the global AI arms race and securing digital autonomy. So while physical resources like oil are getting relentlessly squeezed, a completely different battlefield is defining the flow of data. Take Brazil, for example. They just announced a massive $444 million financial commitment strictly for building out artificial intelligence supercomputers and supporting infrastructure. Make no mistake, this isn't just a standard IT upgrade. This is a nation spending almost $500 million to buy its own digital sovereignty in a rapidly dividing world. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is exactly how Brazil is executing this strategy to preserve its strategic independence. Instead of picking a side in the global tech war, they are deliberately dividing the pie. They're going with Chinese suppliers like Huawei and iFlyTek for a language model project in Rio, while simultaneously utilizing the American giant NVIDIA for a second supercomputer. It is a perfect, totally neutral geopolitical balancing act to make sure they never become overly dependent on any single global power. That sets us up for Section 4, commoditizing the tech boom and the financial explosion of AI. This frantic global race to build AI capacity, it is entirely reshaping our financial markets and investments. Check out this fascinating new concept the Commodity Futures Trading Commission is exploring right now, compute derivatives. Basically, big tech is expected to pour a mind-boggling $650 billion into AI infrastructure in 2026 alone. Because computing power is becoming so absolutely vital and so expensive, we're now seeing the creation of financial contracts tied directly to computing capacity. It allows tech developers to protect themselves against wild infrastructure price swings. They're essentially treating computing power like a tradable commodity, no different than wheat or gold or the oil we were just talking about. $700 million. That is how much an AI chip startup called Etched just raised. And incredibly, that single funding round caused their valuation to more than double to roughly $21 billion, literally in less than a month. Investors are just frantically throwing cash at specialized inference processors right now because computing capacity is fast becoming the new global currency. Finally, let's look at Section 5, Impacts on Health and Society, and how these dominoes fall at home. Let's bring these massive macroeconomic and geopolitical shifts back down to the human element. While nations are out there fighting over oil and supercomputers, everyday society is evolving at breakneck speed. Think about it. Colleges are literally offering degrees in the influencer economy now. Software developers are handing vast chunks of their workflow over to AI coding tools. And maybe most profoundly of all, we're seeing massive medical breakthroughs like Moderna's experimental personalized mRNA therapy producing incredibly positive results in a late-stage melanoma trial. Society is changing fast. So the crucial point is how all of these seemingly separate threads tie right back together. Remember the wounded troops we discussed at the very beginning of the explainer? Well, the Pentagon is currently pushing contractors aggressively to deliver battlefield AI systems much, much faster. And why? Specifically to prevent the kinds of devastating traumatic brain injuries mentioned in this quote. They are taking the fruits of this massive AI tech boom and leveraging it to mitigate the severe human cost of physical geopolitical conflict. The digital world and the physical world, they are completely, undeniably linked. And of course, all of this is happening against a backdrop of truly historic financial pressure. As federal spending on defense, energy independence, and technological supremacy just keeps rising, the United States national debt has reached a record $40 trillion. This is the staggering economic reality that is funding the conflict, the crude, and the compute we've discussed today. We've seen how a conflict in the Middle East chokes off the oil supply. We've seen how that scarcity drives up costs, how nations are simultaneously spending billions to secure their own AI independence, and how all of this is fundamentally reshaping the very fabric of our society and economy. So I'll leave you with this. In a hyper-connected world where national security, energy access, and AI capacity are now permanently entangled, where will the next domino fall? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really encourage you to look deeper into how these powerful forces are shaping our tomorrow.